Hey, everybody, how's it going? Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you all are having a wonderful evening and a great week so far. Welcome, of course, to Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk Gundam, gaming, and Gunpla. I'm your host, Stephen Bayless, aka Midnight Hatter, and joining me this evening is you. So, I do have some exciting stuff to share with you just right off the bat because this is my first official shipment of PLA filament for the new 3D printer. I'm going to be getting that thing set up tomorrow over here next to the resin printer. Does that technically mean that I have a 3D print farm, two printers? Is that like what's the what's the cutoff, right? Because it's like with a serial killer, how many kills does it take to become a serial killer? These are the questions that we will seek to answer this evening and more. Well, hopefully, you guys got a kick out of the miniatures on display in the video thumbnail. That was part of the reason that I wanted to make sure that we were live on this stream. I was trying out Meld briefly, but it seems that there's still a few things that I need to work the kinks out there before I commit to using it. But going forward, we will be streaming using Meld, and of course, that will allow me to export streams to Instagram, and we'll be able to do more shorts and clips and all that good stuff. So, lots and lots of good stuff ahead. But yeah, so those miniatures in the thumbnail, obviously a little bit of a teaser. Unfortunately, yes, they are AI. But so what I ended up doing is I took some photos here of my high grade Gunpla. In this case, we have the Zeta Gundam with a Zaku head on it. I love Double Zeta and I love Eno and when he gets in the Zeta Zaku and goes and fights. So what I did was it was a very simple prompt is I just took a photo of the Gunpla in its pose with the rifle, gave it to ChatGPT and said, "Can you create a image of a hand painted miniature based on this model image?" And it did a pretty good job. You got to admit, those were pretty good looking minis. I wish that I could actually paint that well. This is actually one of my Warhammer minis that I painted. It's one of the Battle Sisters, of course, because you know me. I love my psycho nuns, and and as far as like Gundam miniatures go, this would be one of my hand painted Gundam Assemble Leo figures. So I have a long way to go before I get that good. But tonight, I want to talk about how we can maybe make our own Gundam Assemble miniatures, maybe even take them a step further and make them better. And we'll see what we can do because obviously the minis featured in the thumbnail of the video this evening are things that I don't imagine are ever going to see the light of day for as long as the Gundam Assemble game lasts, because all good things probably will come to an end. Eventually, even the Gundam card game is going to come to an end, and I sincerely doubt that even if they do make cards for Double Zeta, they're probably not going to do a Zeta Zaku card. They might do a Bawu. We'll see. But yeah, so these are just the ideas, the fantasies that I have in mind, and personally, we talked about this last week on the show. Is I'm not too thrilled about the rules of Gundam Assemble. We'll see. I've heard that it's similar to like X-Wing, the timeline system. I understand for balance purposes why it sort of makes sense, but personally, I think that there are more interesting ways to balance the game, and we'll talk about that a little bit tonight. But yeah, first, let's just kind of dive into what we've got here, right? So, this is what I want to look at. Let's pull up the screen share here. I have got a screenshot. This is from the Gundam Assemble, like learn to play video. This is one of the player cards or unit cards, I should say, for Sharzaku. This is pretty much all we need to start if we wanted to start making our own custom cards, because then we can start fleshing out, okay, we know we've got to introduce abilities. We probably need at least two weapons. We've got to introduce the hit points, the victory points, and then the timeline, like where it lands when it gets spawned. Obviously, it's got some traits there. We don't have a full list of the traits that are going to be available, but it's pretty simple. It's like fast encounter, Xeon, Char Aznable. So it's like you've got a faction trait, you've got a pilot trait, and then it looks like you have something that I don't know what fast encounter means, but I'm sure that there is some gameplay aspect to it. But this would be super easy to build a template out of, and, and honestly, when I'm looking at this, the Char Zaku is totally cracked, because check it out, after he fires the bazooka, right, he gets to make an additional dash at timeline 0, which means he does a shot, he goes forward, 4 steps on the timeline, and then he gets to go again before everybody else does, and then check this out, Char Kick, the, the response down there. No, sorry, let's go one back. So 3 times faster is an ongoing trait, so he moves 1 additional hex while dashing. So he gets to make an additional dash, moves 1 additional hex while dashing, and after he dashes, he gets to hit for 1 damage with a Char Kick. So basically, he's like bazooka kick, bazooka kick, bazooka kick, like, it's crazy. Um, Oh, hey, shout out in chat. Man, YouTube ads are haters. They popped up as soon as Steven said, check it out. That's not fair. That's not right because honestly, I have turned off midstream ads. So if there are midstream ads rolling, let me know in chat because I need to fix that. That's always been a bugaboo of mine is pre-stream ads, cool, post-stream ads, fine. Who's gonna stay around for that? But midstream ads, I'm not a big fan of. So I'm glad that Alan Mitchell in chat said that you could, or no, it's Taco and Yoshi said you could easily template that. Yes, absolutely. So that's exactly what I want to talk about doing here because this is something that I've done in the past for other game systems. So let's hop over to my other tab here. This is a HeroScape card data populator that I designed. This was something that I launched on the Patreon last year at some point and just never got around to finishing it. Honestly, some of these stats are a little bit cracked themselves. But basically, what I did was I designed a system that allowed you to, and I've got, a list of units in here, and you can go in and select the unit, and it'll change the stats that populate in the card, which is really cool. And then you can actually save the image of the card. So it'll say it just takes a snapshot of that web div. Obviously, there's some formatting issues. You've got like, when when the text breaks down to the next line, this ESF should come down a little bit. But this is a an authentic HeroScape card design, and I basically stripped out all of the details and copied it and made my own template out of it. And then I populated all of the information for these units on a spreadsheet. Let me show you guys what that looks like. So in this spreadsheet, I have stored all of the units that you saw on that card. Now, this is the part that I never finished is because, obviously I wanted to give special abilities. Everything is validated. So you can set the size according to various um HeroScape has several different size categories that you can select from. And what I did, this is man, the type of algorithms that I used to build, and this is in the days before AI, by the way. You know, when you look at, say, for instance, hit points, right? I want you guys to look at this formula here that we've got. So if N2 is greater than 1, 1 floor is G generation stats E2 minus, or the minimum G generation stats E max G generation stats EE minus the minimum of G generation stats EE plus 1. So what all that is that is utilizing a formula that I had designed that actually converts stats from any game system into another game system based on the proportionality of the values in that game system. So when we hop over to this tab of the spreadsheet, you guys didn't think you were getting math tonight, right? So this spreadsheet has all of the stats for these units in Gundam G Generation Genesis. So it has their cost stat, their experience, their size, their HP, the energy, so the number of moves they can take, their attack value, their defense value, their mobility, their move speed, their terrain compatibility, whether or not they can use an SFS, um, and then like what their special defense is. Then over here is where the formula comes into play, right? So the lowest cost unit is 9,000. The highest cost unit is 66,000, which means that our range is going to be, the 66,000 minus 9, giving us 57. These values help us build the proportional scale of what we're looking at. Now, when you're looking at an HP value that goes between 6,000 and 20,000, you can't exactly set the HP of a unit in HeroScape to 20,000. That's just not gonna work. So, what we do is we compress those values into the values that you would use as reference for, say, a HeroScape card. So in our reference here, let's see where we've got it. So, these are that's the G generation values. Um, this has stars without number. So clearly I was in the process of converting this to stars without number as well. Um, but the idea is that these numbers are then calculated off of that range. So if the average hit points of a HeroScape unit are between 1 and let's say 9, then what we do is wherever the unit falls in that range of 6,000 to 20,000, then we map that to whatever the number would be on the scale of 1 to 9. Part of the other thing is, and this is where I think HeroScape is a little bit superior to a lot of other war games, is just the idea of the unique ace slash unique squad slash common ace, common squad, that kind of thing. So each card in HeroScape has a certain number of units that come on that card, right? Like you might have a really powerful unit, a hero unit that is just one guy and he has an HP of like 5 or 6. Or you might have, in this case, so the gun cannon duo is actually Kai and Hayato, meaning that the number of units on the card are two. You get two miniatures that are associated with that card. Um, Now, why that is important is that when you have a card that has units, when you have a card that represents multiple units, you don't want to be tracking multiple hit point values. So, this automatically, what it does is it defaults if this number, the number of units on the card, is greater than 1, then automatically this is going to be 1 hit point. Does that make sense? So similarly, it would be incredibly easy if we just had a basic understanding of what is the minimum HP that a Gundam Assemble unit can have. What is the maximum HP? What's the minimum timeline value? What's the maximum timeline value? All we need are the minimum and maximum values of everything that we could, in theory, see here. We can map that using another game as reference, whether it's GBO2, whether it's SD Gundam G Generation Eternal, whatever the case may be. So this is one of those things where I love being able to map data that we already have to data that we don't have. And again, this is like, you know, it makes it so much easier to just build these units out, right? Like and then this card generator, all it's doing is it's taking the data from that spreadsheet, literally that spreadsheet, and then publishes it here. So, like, let's say, for instance, you see if he's got Barrage, Tough, and Counter Strike as his abilities. If we just come in here and let's change this special ability to Attack Aura, and we'll change Counter Strike to Battle Fury, um, which these would, in theory, based on the ability costs, because every ability kind of has like a tier one, tier two, tier three level of how good is the special ability will affect the total cost of the unit. So we change that over, right? Let's refresh this and see what Amuro's. Boom, there it is. Barrage, Attack Aura, and Battle Fury. So this was a really cool just little card builder that I'd made, and I think it's gonna be really easy to adapt it. Honestly, it's gonna be a lot easier to do this, which is like a nice clean square card, than it was to do this hexagonal crazy glyph card. As cool as the glyph is, I mean, come on, you gotta admit this is pretty sweet. Um, and then, of course, the image, this is part of the fun, is that the image itself can be pulled dynamically as well. So, right now, I've got that's the image URL. It's pulling from a one of my own websites. But, like, let's say we wanted to just grab a gun cannon for the Kai and Hayato gun cannon, right? Let's look for a transparent version. This is probably going to be important because um, we want perfect. Here we go. So we're going to copy the image address here. We're just going to go ahead and paste it right here. Boom, gun cannon. And then let's refresh our card generator. That's going to make sure that the data is up to date. And now when I come in here to select our card, in theory, it should have changed the image. Why is it not changing the image? Hmm, I mean, it could be that there's all this rigmarole here after the. So it's typical of Wikia to be picky about their about their image addresses. Let's try this one. This one might work a little bit better. So now see, this one adds a whole bunch of stuff to the URL that we don't want. That is probably going to mess it up. Let's see if just removing that is going to fix it, because I really want to see this gun cannon work. It's still not changing. Oh well. Well, you get the idea. And honestly, what I would like to do is make our own Gundam Assemble cards based on these custom Gundam Assemble miniatures that we've generated. So, like, for instance, this Zeta Zaku, which, I mean, look, AI or not, you've got to admit that that was cool. There are some things that I wanted to touch up. Obviously, the shoulder needs to be blue instead of red, but it did really nail a lot of the details without any instruction, without any coaching or anything like that. So I was really impressed. Um, and we can even take this a step further, and I'm going to show you guys how here shortly. And with the Bawu, this one I did take into Photoshop and edit a little bit myself, because it made a mistake and it gave the Bawu two eyes, which obviously it's a mono eye unit. So I had to take out one of the eyes. But otherwise, that's a slick looking Bawu. Like, I just, I can't get over how good the proportions of the model are. Like, this looks like Warhammer scale. And personally, I love like the chunkiness of these units. If my Gunpla were this, proportion and this scale, oh man, total game changer. Um, oh yeah, a Bawu with two eyes sounds cursed. It is, in fact, it is quite cursed. So, what I want to show you guys is some of the cool stuff that we can do outside of just obviously making our own stat cards and things like that. You know, it is cool to see a an imagined version of what one of these units might look like. But what if we wanted to just see what an actual one would look like? That's where we would hop into everyone's favorite game company, Tencent, who's been investing heavily in AI. This is something I actually talked to about with our buddy Adam from Gundam Explained. Even though the US government is, taking all of this action to kind of bust up the monopoly that is Tencent, and I mean, this has affected me in a couple of different ways because Chinese assets on the Unity Asset Store have actually been removed. So anything that wasn't previously downloaded from this huge list of publishers, like Unity sent out this PDF of like thousands of game asset publishers that are on the Unity Asset Store that you can no longer get their stuff because they're not doing business with China anymore. And I was like, honestly, it kind of sounds to me like they're getting out of the gaming scene anyway because they're doing this instead. So one of the cool things about this 3D model generator is that you have the ability to do a multiple image generation. Um, so here you can take pictures from the front, from the back, from the top, from the bottom, from the left, from the right, and from 45-degree angles in order to provide their algorithm with as much data as you possibly can in order to create the most robust and accurate model that you can do. It's really cool. On top of that, they actually have 2 different versions of their builder. So, like, you see here, you can select how many polygons you want to generate, and then you can do either your all-in-one, like, texture generation, or you can do staged generation. Staged generation is really cool because it allows you to refine the topology before you generate your textures. So, you can actually dial in those things where, like, you see how in this image they've got here, I can almost guarantee you that this mesh here is not, AI generated. I think that this is one that was made by an actual modeler because the topology is just too good. Like, this does not look AI generated. Most AI generated topology is, garbage. So, because I don't have those roundabout 3D images, let's just see what we can do if we take our Bawu image. We're gonna drop it in here as a single image upload. Oh, detection failed. Let's try one more time. See if it works for us. Detection failed. Why is it not working for me? Let's refresh and try it again. Sometimes it hits me with that where it's like it can't quite make out what is in the image. Um, all right, this looks promising. Got it. All right, so let's go ahead and generate. You actually get 20 free generations per day on Hunyuan, so really cool stuff. So we're gonna wait for exactly 184 seconds until this finishes. In the meantime, I want to talk to you guys directly. Hopefully, this has not been too much of a barrage of information for you. These are just the things that I've been looking into, especially since talking with Adam and talking to several other friends about Gundam Assemble in general. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of the models themselves. I'm a huge fan of the proportions, the level of detail that's been put into them. What I guess I'm not a fan of is the way that the timeline system basically throttles the actions of a more powerful unit in order to make it competitive with less powerful units. So rather than allowing you, like most other games do, to sort of flood the map with Zaku's and then have like 6 Zaku's versus 1 Gundam, you get 1 Zaku versus 1 Gundam, but that 1 Zaku can make more actions per turn than the Gundam can, and because you have this respawn ability, after 2 turns, you know, you just respawn your Zaku and start over again. So in a lot of ways, it reminds me a lot of like online gaming because you go into whether it's an arena shooter, whether it's a looter shooter, all of these different sort of PvP online shooter games. You get like infinite lives, and then it's like, okay, who wins after 20, like, was it 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever the time limit is. I guess Fortnite is the only exception since you can be killed, and then you have to wait until the round is over to play another round. Um, but yeah, that to me that feels too much like online gaming and not tabletop gaming, where tabletop gaming to me has always been about stakes and about cost and about thinking tactically in a way that's not like, well, even if that unit gets taken out, it's fine. I'll bring him back 2 turns later. Like, to me, that just doesn't sit right. Now, there is something to be said about the action economy because this is something that comes up a lot in like Dungeons and Dragons, where a party of level 5 adventurers can easily get taken out by 20 goblins if those 20 goblins get 20 attacks per turn. It's like 20 attacks versus 1 attack per turn. Obviously, who's going to have more shots on goal, so to speak? Who's going to get more opportunities to deal damage? But essentially, you're doing the same thing with the timeline mechanic, right? Like, the only difference is you don't get to feel like as much of a badass. You don't get to feel like Amuro, counting off his beam rifle shots. One, two, three, So I don't know. There's pros and cons to the approach, I guess. It just doesn't speak to me. You know what I mean? So it looks like we've got about 10 seconds left here. Let's pop the screen share back up and let's see what we've got here. I'm going to be very interested to see what it comes up with because obviously it's going to have to interpolate and guess what the backside of the model is going to look like. Let's see. I feel like not selling 10-cent products isn't really going to keep them from having a monopoly. Not really, just creates an inverse bubble without their presence. Possibly, yeah. I mean, and ultimately, I think what it comes down to is that I don't know. People just don't want to know that their favorite game was funded by 10 cent. Like, was it you guys who mentioned that it almost seems like the board game version of Gundam Versus? I don't remember saying that, but that does sound yeah, that sounds accurate. Yeah, and because, yeah, each unit has a specific, like, victory point score, so you actually get more points for taking down a Gundam than you do for taking out a Zaku, so there is that to it. So let's see what we've got here. It's loading, it's almost there. Um Alright, so I've definitely seen, better. I've also seen worse. What in the world did it do to my poor Bawu? Yeah, see, it clearly didn't know what to do with the shield. The wings, it almost nailed perfectly. Um, the rifle, for some reason, is, like, bent. Yeah, this is just straight up silly. But you can see how easy this is, and, like, you know, when you're 3D printing it, obviously, it's not gonna be textured, it's not gonna be colored like this, so you'd have to paint it anyway. Let's just do the geometry vision. So, as far as the geometry goes, it's not terrible. Obviously, I would probably replace the head wholesale and replace the shield as well. But like the legs, for some reason, it got perfect. The skirt looks really good. I like how it even added in these extra panel lines on the skirt. um, but yeah, it gave it like this sad transformer face. Can you can you guys see this? He says, "Please don't kill me, Megatron. I didn't mean to." But yeah, and I don't think it would be too difficult to alter the angle of the beam rifle. Apart from being bent, the beam rifle is actually pretty spot on. So interesting that that's what it came up with, right? And I think it's probably just that the resolution of the image was so low that it didn't know what to do with like all of that. Like that's a lot of real gritty detail to try and copy. But it makes me wonder, like, for instance, if I were to, I wonder if we'll be able to do this. We're gonna try and do this on stream. I don't know if it's gonna work. Uh, so I need a place to upload um, I need a place to upload our images to, because ultimately, what we want this to look like is, let's go to Hero Scapers here. Honestly, I just want to look at some of the images of the cards because I want you guys I want you guys to see and appreciate the card images here, because obviously, and I've talked about this before. Oh my, that's ridiculous! Come on now, that looks terrible. Let's pull this back up. Let's open up the original source of this image because I want the. Here we go. So I've talked about this before. Obviously, these were fully painted miniatures, and they used photos of the miniatures on the card, which is really cool. And that was something that I really wanted to emulate with my own Gundam versions, right? And even if you look at the Gundam Assemble card, technically that is a picture of the miniature, but that is definitely one of those 3D renders. It is not a authentic, like, photo of it's not a photo of the miniature um the way that the HeroScape cards are, right? So let's see if we can't make something beautiful happen. Um so I just uploaded our um image. Hopefully this is going to actually work for us. I have something blocking my screen here. What I want to do is insert a new row, and we're going to call this Zeta Zaku Eno Abarov. I don't know if I spelled his name right, but let's see. This is probably going to be a medium-sized unit. It's going to be a unique ace because it's a single pilot. It's going to be AUG. Cost, I don't know. Let's make it like 65. Obviously, I could build this out in the formula, but we're just doing this for funsies. We're gonna give him 3 HP. We're gonna give him 5 move, which I think sounds about average. Range, let's do like 6 or 7, maybe 6, because he doesn't have the hyper mega launcher. He only has the regular beam rifle. Attack, we'll give him 3 dice for attack, and we'll give him 5 dice for defense. So he seems more like a defense unit um than an attacker, right? Because Eno was not really he does not have any special classes. And then as far as his personality, um, he's not menacing, merciful, mindless, uh, tricky, valiant, wild. I don't think he's like any of these things. How would you guys describe Eno? Um, we'll call him loyal because he's very loyal to his squad, right? And we're going to paste in our image URL. Let's go to our Gundamscape card generator, refresh so that we can update with the latest data. And then this is what I want to see. Oh, come on. It's still not working for me. Come on now. Come on now. I know you guys can do this. Maybe I never instituted the script that allows it to change the image. No, that's exactly the problem. That is exactly the problem. So the unit image doesn't change, but we can manually change it right here. Boom. Zeta Zaku. Let's see. Oh no, he's way too big. um, let's see. So if our Zeta Zaku is way too big, we probably want to institute like a size cap, right? So unit image, we're gonna go in here and say style equals max width. I don't know. We'll call it like 80 pixels. Oh no, that's way too small. We'll make it like 200. See, but now he's like way outside. So what we'll have to do is, let's say, float right. See if that moves him to the other side. No. Okay, so maybe if we do like right, and we'll call it like maybe 15 pixels. Because really all we're trying to do is we're trying to place the image inside of our existing image. Oh no, it's like way outside. So let's see. First of all, let's bump up the scale. We're gonna do it to like 350. Whoa, not 2350, just 350. And then we're gonna set the right to like, I don't know. What do you think? Like 600 pixels, just to see if we can move it inside where we need it to be. We're almost there. Let's try 900. That's almost it. See, and then we'd say like top, maybe like 30 pixels. Now, obviously, if I were doing this for production purposes, we would want this to be a lot more refined and specific, not just me kind of firing off numbers and hoping that it fits. um, let's try 170, see if that pushes him down far enough. Okay, so you see, now we're almost in position. Um, oh, hey, what's going on? Simply new type. Are you using React or vanilla JavaScript? This is vanilla JavaScript. I wish that I was more versed in some of the JavaScript libraries out there. This is, and in particular, we're using a framework called Papa Parse, which allows me to interpolate spreadsheet data and then populate that data into our card here. All right, so we bumped up the size a little bit to 12. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to bump up our size because it's still a little small to me. We're going to do like 500 pixels in the size category here. Oh, yeah, look at that. Look at that. See, this is starting to look like a professional HeroScape card. And then, yeah, like I said, obviously the text gets populated with whatever we want it to be. So in this case, it would be Zeta Zaku, Ino Aburov. Still says EFSF and not AU. That's something we would need to change. And then obviously we would need to update all of the special abilities to reflect what his actual special abilities are. Oh, you know what? Actually, it looks like some of these things have actually been populated because unique ace, AU, loyal, medium 5. So that was correct. We just haven't changed the image here. It's pretty cool, right? So imagine, if you will, imagine, if you will, if we did this, but with this as our template, as our framework, and we build out our spreadsheet of all of these, Grail units for Gundam Assemble that I know that they're never going to make. Like they're just not going to make a Zeta Zaku. They're not going to make a Bawu. They'll probably do a Cubile, yeah. They'll do the double Zeta Gundam. Um, but, Ultranos and I were having a conversation earlier today, is there's just some Gundam stuff that never gets any love. Gundam X, Gundam Age, G-Reco. That stuff is never going to hit a Gundam Assemble tabletop as long as there is 0083 units to do, 8th MS Team units to do, 3 different Seed series worth of units to do. We didn't even get all of Wing, we only got the Epion and the Wing Zero, and then it was like, so we do have the Tall Geese and the Leos, but those aren't even this is what's crazy. The assemble units that came with the Gundam card game boosters are not assemble units that actually go into the game. So it's like we don't even actually have a Tall Geese, we only have the Epion. But who knows? They might add that stuff later. So this is kind of where I'm at when it comes to Gundam tabletop is like I'm already thinking 3, 5 steps ahead. Um, what can we make that's going to enhance and better the game? And furthermore, like I said, the minis are awesome. They're cool. They're fun. That's fine. But like when it comes to the playability, man, I got to tell you, I would rather do something like this and have like, you know, I play my one card that comes with 3 Zakus. Now each of those Zakus is only going to have like one life, one hit point. But um oh and yeah, shout out Alan Mitchell. I want to say it depends on how fast they crank out units, which I would assume should be pretty quick. Yes, they actually did say that they were going to be coming out with new units every month. Uh-huh. Now, I think that probably the Seed Deluxe set counts towards that. So whenever that drops, they are going to probably say like, "Oh, we did come out with new units this month." So they do have a timeline where they're going to be releasing lots of stuff. But again, I don't know, man. It just it doesn't hit the same for me. Well, we'll see. I'm gonna try playing it, and we'll see if the gameplay actually does hold up. But I still think it would be fun to have my black tri-stars all on one card and that sort of thing. And a lot of it, yeah, I'll tell you exactly where this comes from because it's deeply ingrained in my Gundam brain due to Zeonic Front. That's where this is all coming from. Like, I'm gonna tell you, because Zeonic Front was all squads of 3, right? I wanna try and find one of, like, the squad loadout pages. Let's see. Team setup. I w Hopefully we can yes, here we go. So, we're gonna open this image in a new tab. We're gonna open this image in a new tab. No, not the link, we just want the image. Because 'cause I'm not trying to, like, read a whole blog post about it. There's a lot of YouTube thumbnails, obviously. So, because in Zeonic Front, you're playing as kind of grunt Xeon pilots. You have the main guy who is the main pilot, and then he comes with 2 wingmen. And this goes for all of the major units. So, like, Ensign Hepner, she's got 3 Zakus with her. Um, Here we've got Petty Officer Austin, Matt Austin, I think it is. He gets his 3 Zaku 1s. But this is where it gets interesting is when you get to some of the more powerful units, in particular, when you start playing as Federation units, the Gundam is solo. So you only get 1 Gundam, you only get 1 Mudrock. I think when you play as Char, you only get 1 let's see here. Char Aznable. Hopefully it'll show this for us. Nah, of course it's gonna pull up a bunch of, like, unrelated Char stuff. Man, so many YouTube videos about Zeonic Front because it's one of the best games. So yeah, if you're playing as Renchef, you get 3 Goofs. But I wanna see some of the simulator ones because the simulator ones are where you actually get, someone has a painted Zeon's Rush mini in there. Man, I wish I could find at least one image of, like, one of the Federation simulator missions. Let's try this. ESFF simulator. No, of course not. Of course not. But yeah, so this is like how you would have a team built, right? Like you could do 3 teams of 3 DOMs, and so you'd have 9 DOMs on the field. Or, you could do 2 teams of 3 DOMs and then 1 super powerful unit like Char Zaku, and that would be your squad. All in all, I just think that yeah, like, so here we go. You could play as as the Federation units in the simulator. I wonder, yeah, see, shout out. That is some sort of homebrew rules I want to play for in the game. I like 1v1 ace fights, but I love skirmishes and battles with a bunch of units way more. 100%. That's exactly what I'm getting at here, is people want to live out the 8th MS team. Like, they don't want, um so let's try this. I'm gonna mute this so that it doesn't blow our ears off, because clearly we've got some videos here. Like I said, I just wanna go to the setup screen so that we can see. Oh, oh, they skipped the setup. Come on. Bummer. But yeah, so, like, if you used one of the GM snipers, it was only, like, you get 1 GM sniper, you don't get a squad of them. And that was the cool thing about HeroScape too, is it's like, you would have units like this that were 1 unit because he was a stronger guy, or let's see if we've got something in here, like a gallery, da, 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 da. I don't know, let's look up, like, Legionnaires. Because every HeroScape card came with between 1 and 4 units attached to it. Any minute now. I also love how the HeroScapers, forums uses that hex tile as the profile pictures. That's a nice touch. Uh, Nothing here. Okay. Let's just look up HeroScape Roman Legion, because I guarantee you we can find this card. All right, here we go. So this was a particularly weak squad, but they could, it was strength in numbers, right? So, like, obviously, they had a pretty low attack, pretty low defense. They only have 1 life, so all it took was 1 hit to take out each of the 4 legionnaires. But this was something cool you could do, was warlord bonding. So before you used their action, you could actually take a turn with one of the, like, warlord type characters, and there was actually a Roman, like a Roman general that, like, synced really well with them. Now, when defending with a Roman legionnaire, you get to add an extra defense die for every adjacent legionnaire up to a maximum of +2 dice. So this allowed you to kind of like, okay, if we've got the squad all together, we get more defense. The other cool thing about HeroScape, and this is where I think the tactics side of it became interesting, is you actually had to decide which units were going to move before a round starts. So the way that it works is you had 4 command tokens, right? And it doesn't matter how many unit cards you had, you could only move 3 per turn. And so you would have 3 you'd have like 3 markers, and then you'd have 1 which was like a bluff. It just has an X on it, and it's like if you wanted to trick your opponent. So imagine you had like 5 unit cards, right? You've got like a team of 3 Zaku's, you've got a team of 3 Zaku ones, you've got a team of 3 Doms, and then you've got Char's Zaku. And it's like, okay, I want to move with Char's Zaku first. I'm not gonna move with the Doms. I'm gonna move with the Zaku 2's second and the Zaku 1's third, whatever. But, like, if your opponent took out one of those units before their turn came around like, during that round, then you just burned a turn because, like, you can't act anymore. So it made it so that you had to, like, think ahead in terms of, tactically what you were gonna do, and you didn't know what your opponent was gonna do. Whereas with the timeline system of Gundam Assemble, you know exactly where everyone's moving, and so it's almost like you have more information than you should be entitled to. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm being a little maybe I'm just being a little extra critical. Um, this is what those little guys looked like. They're awesome, man. Like, come on. Tell me you don't want a team of 4 Zaku 1s that looks like that. That's what we're building here. That's what we're building. Yeah, this was such a cool set because it actually came with a set of the 4 Legionnaires and and 3 Roman archers, and they had, like, a volley ability that oh, yeah, it looks like here they are. Um, oh, no, this is just the both sides of the card. Yeah, here are the Roman archers. But they all came in the same pack, and they were, that was like 13 bucks for that pack compared to the 35 minimum that you're gonna be spending on 3 Gundam Assemble miniatures. Um, interesting stuff. So what do you guys think? Do we commit all of our time and resources to building out our own card template here so that we can start building out our own Gundam Assemble units? Or do we revive Gundamscape and build out something using the Gundam Assemble units as a template, using their models and proportions? Man, I gotta tell you, once I start firing up this bad boy and we start going in multicolor prints, I don't know if I mentioned this, but like, so I did have to sell a rather large Gunpla from my backlog in order to cover the cost on this guy. But this is for they were practically giving this filament away with the new Anycubic Cobra X printer, and they were actually giving away the printer last month too. There was a giveaway going on if you logged in every day for like 15 days straight. Um, Multicolor printer prints in 4 colors, twice as fast with less waste because of the way that the filament extruder is designed. I mean, how cool would it be if, like, we go to print our own Gundam Assemble proxies and I can actually print it in like red and black and we have like some details at that level? Might be pretty cool. I don't know. You tell me what you guys think. Personally, I'm leaning more towards the Gundamscape route because honestly, like, come on, the card looks cool. Um, Obviously, it doesn't have to match the whole Heroescape design, and we can tweak some things because it doesn't have to actually match like Heroescape rules. I just like the way that it works. I like the way that the attack and defense dice work. I like the command tokens, like I mentioned. In fact, one thing that I might borrow from Gundam Assemble is that if you remember from last week, Gundam Assemble uses D10s, but it uses the same dice stepping that like Heroescape does, or Fantasy Flight Games Genesis. When you look at the attack value of like the Heat Hawk or the Bazooka, you are rolling 4 dice, and every every one that has a hit is a hit, and like at least against the unit's defense. Or no, they don't even have a defense. It's just everything that's a hit is a hit. um, I think that it's only like 6 and above is a hit though, right? It's like you have like a 40% chance of dealing damage, but then I think the critical range is actually really high. It's like a 1 or a 2 is a critical miss, and then a 9 or a 10 is a critical hit, which is nuts. But I like the idea of having, um, you know, defense, right? Especially when you have stuff like, one of my favorite Heroscape abilities, Heroscape, were they ninjas? I don't remember exactly what their it's not the ninjas. Maybe it was oh, you know what? I think it was the Tokugawa samurai. Oh, here they are. Alright, this is so freaking cool. You guys have no idea. These guys used to absolutely murder my brothers. The Izumi samurai. The Tokugawa samurai were another set. The Izumi samurai have this ability called Counter Strike. So when rolling defense dice against a normal attack from an adjacent attacker, so this doesn't work for ranged attacks, but it works for melee. All excess shields count as unblockable hits on the attacking figure. This was one of the just most brutal effects because obviously, like, you look, you only roll two dice for their attack, but basically the idea with these samurai is you get them out into the front lines, and people are forced to attack them at melee range. They have 5 defense dice, so already they're probably not taking a lot of hits. Like, but then also, if you roll more defense than your enemy rolls attacks, they're dealing damage back to them. So cool. These guys were totally badass. So this would be an ability I would give to like Norris Packard, right? Like that's a Norris Packard ability right there. I might give him 3 attack dice, and maybe like I don't know. We'd have to workshop it because he would cost more than 60 points. He would probably at least be like 120. But I think that his ability would be something like that counter strike ability. That would be really cool. Um, so yeah, maybe using like D8s instead of D6s or D10s would be an interesting way to do it. I think what works so nicely about D6s is that in Heroscape, at least, every attack die is a 50-50 chance of hitting. So it's 3 hits, 3 misses. Like, there are 3 blank sides and 3 sides that have a hit on them. The defense dice are a 1 in 3 chance of defending. So you only have 2 shields, but then the other 4 sides are blank. So you actually have this, having an extra attack die gives you more value than having an extra defense die. Interesting stuff for sure. But yeah, that's the other thing. All the Gundam Assemble moves, they can all move 3 spaces. That's preposterous. You know what I mean? Like, so you end up having to have a lot of silly abilities built into the cards because of the way that they throttle the balances. Like, you can only have 3 units and you can only move 3 spaces with every unit, which means in order to make Char seem faster, he gets to move 1 extra space when he dashes, but you don't dash every turn. And if you do dash, then you don't get to attack, right? Like, I don't know. I think it would have been a lot easier to just give the cards costs, give the units costs the way that, like, I don't know, every other tabletop skirmish game in the world works. So, yeah, hopefully you guys dug this look at some of the assemble mechanics. And of course, as always, I'm going to compare every tabletop skirmish game to Gundam Assemble. It's just in my nature. That is where I spent most of my life. I did play a little bit of Battletech. I never got into Warhammer, despite actually having some of the minis. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to paint these because they're pretty awesome looking. Um, but I will definitely be 3D printing some of these miniatures that we are generating because this is just too cool. Like, having the ability to take some photos of a Gunpla and say, "Hey, make this look like a Warhammer mini," and then plug it into a different model and say, "Make a 3D model out of this." and then we're gonna stick it on the printer, print it up, paint it, rock and roll. Let me know what you guys think. Hopefully, you guys have a great rest of your evening. Definitely check us out tomorrow on the Gundam Explained show live. Until next time, I'll catch you all later. Cheers. Good night.